My name is Romeo Durscher and I am the Director of Global Education at DJI. Recently, I went on a trip to Vietnam to survey a potential live broadcast location for the ABC Good Morning America TV show. We arrived in Hanoi and enjoyed a few hours with the locals. And of course, we also enjoyed some wonderful food. We had just enough time to get a feel of Hanoi, and then we continued on to the city of Dong Hoi. When we landed in Dong Hoi, we could already feel the hot and humid weather of the jungle. It is always an adventure when you travel to a new location for the first time. And we certainly did not travel light on this trip.
Just taking a quick.
Shortly after arriving at the Oxalis Adventure home base, we took out our equipment and tested everything. Here, I'm flying the DJI Inspire. I totally enjoyed the view I had over this beautiful little town named Phong Nha. No matter at what altitude and in what direction you looked in, this area was just so gorgeous. I was very fascinated by the thickness of the jungle and by the forms of the mountains. To me, this combination, along with the river, was what I had expected to see in Vietnam. Soon, it was time to prepare and get ready for our real purpose of this trip. But before, I had to do one last flight over the village and go and visit the church from the air. I strapped my Inspire onto an airwheel backpack. Then we said our goodbyes, enjoyed the last pieces of gum, and made our way into the jungle.
What do you feel?
I've been talking about this for so long. I'm so excited. Ready.
We were enjoying one last stop before the trek down the mountain.
First hour has been quite hot, humid. Terrain is pretty challenging, steep, downhill. Did I mention it's hot?
We had a great team of porters, and that made our journey so much easier. On our way through the jungle, we also passed one of the native villages. It was an incredible honor to fly and see this beautiful tiny village from above. The locals were very interested in this technology, and they enjoyed seeing their homes from above. We had to continue our trek along the river, and we constantly went in and out of the water. This part was one of the hottest parts, and we were glad once this was behind us, because it meant we were at the entrance to the Hang An Cave. It is an incredible sight when you're on top of these massive boulders looking down at the sandy beach and the campsite. The size of this cave is enormous and can be judged by how small the tents appear. And flying through the cave gives you some sort of an idea how big this area really is. That night, we did some tests to see how the DJI Inspire camera would hold up in a very low light environment. Here, I am trying to find a person illuminated by flashlights only. It wasn't easy. Also because the Inspire created a lot of dust. But that, however, made for some cool shots. Illuminating the water was also challenging. But again, it looked so cool from the air. Here is a time lapse of the morning activities. As you can see, a lot of things are happening, including me flying the Inspire. Now it's time to move on to our next camp. But before we exit Hang An, we flew one more time. The structure on the wall was just so beautiful. Flying inside a cave, it is very challenging. At times you have absolutely no depth perception, and you never know how close or how far away you are from either the ceiling or the sides. That's especially true when your machine is 200 or 300 meters away. The individuals in this shot give you some idea of the size and scale of this opening. Just massive. There were a lot of birds flying around, and you can see them passing in front of the Inspire. Now we are looking down the valley. This is where we had to hike all the way down to the entrance of our next destination, the Son Doong Cave. We followed the river for some time, and then we had to hike up a mountain. It was a pretty grueling ascent, and this view here gives you an idea how steep it really was. After about an hour, we arrived at another campsite, and this campsite, in essence, is the entrance to the cave. So I took off one more time as I wanted to look down and see if I could spot the cave entrance through the thick forest. As I was landing, I could see all the equipment we were just about to put on to make our descent into the cave more secure. Now, let's go inside Son Doong. It certainly was a very challenging descent all the way down. But luckily, our porters and our guides were very good and helped us get through this initial descent into the darkness.
Well, you cheated us once again, huh?
Once we were inside the cave, we had to cross the river, and this particular area also provided an opportunity for one last bath. Surprisingly, the water was not that cold. It really helps to have a person placed in a shot to create some sort of scale. Otherwise, you have absolutely no idea of the size.
This is where we came from. It's pretty dark. But this is where we're going. You see those lights down there? That's our campsite. Amazing. Just plain amazing.
As we were approaching our campsite, we could see one of the openings in the ceiling of the cave. This is called a doline. This opening provided the area with some daylight, and it made our stay a little bit more comfortable. This is my tent and my view I had when I opened my tent door. I felt like I was on a different planet. Flying from the campsite was an unreal experience. The cave here is very tall and pretty wide, and it has a layer of fog in it. All of this made flying a very different experience. At some point, I could not see the machine anymore, and I had to solely fly by looking at my monitor. Flying backwards like this is extremely hard, as you don't see what's coming up behind you. The next day, we had to continue our hike and survey. About an hour to an hour and a half into our day, we arrived right below this big opening, and it was time for the first flight of the day. Here, I am now looking back at the campsite, and tilting the camera down gives you some idea of how steep this mountain is. Down below, you can see the members of our team just about ready to make their way up. I decided to track them from the air for a little bit and show how steep this particular ascent was. Tilting the camera up, which is a wonderful feature on the DJI Inspire, lets you see how steep and how long this hill is. And somewhere up there, we were waiting for the rest of the team. Morgan, you can see her in the yellow shirt, is using the rope to pull herself up this steep incline. We all struggled, but thanks to our guides and porters, we made it all the way up. Here we are waiting, and you can see the landing platform. Now our team is just about to arrive on top. Because above us is a dough line, this opening in the cave ceiling, here we have many more green plants than in other areas of the cave. Morgan has made it, and now it was time to sit down and take a little breather. This is a little further down, and we are now waiting for the sunlight to come through the opening and create this beautiful beam of light. It's just about to happen. This is part of our team. These folks were amazing and such a big help. While waiting for the beam of light to appear, we enjoyed some leaves falling from above. It was so magical. Here's my little landing platform with the Go Professional case we use to protect our gear. So now the sun is shining through the opening, and I am exploring it with the Inspire. The aerodynamics proved very interesting here, as we had some wind coming in from above, and also the heated air created some interesting pushes and pulls. This can be seen here going down. Tilting the camera up, I am now looking towards the darker area of the cave. And then flying through the condensation, it was just so stunning. Look at how this beam of light creates this incredible atmosphere inside the cave. One of our porters was the model of this shot. We placed him on this huge stalagmite just so we could get a scale. This to me was my favorite location to fly. It just looks so out of this world. Unreal. Flying backwards, away from the beam of light, through the cloud layer and down to the cave below was just so much fun. It's pretty dark down there, so we had some of our helpers use their flashlights to light up the walls of the cave. Look at those structures on the ground. Just amazing. One last view of our model standing on top of this colossal stalagmite. We continued on with our hike and soon we arrived at the second tow line. It was time to fly some more, getting the Inspire ready, transitioning and heading down. I enjoyed a 20-minute flight while the camera behind me was rolling and capturing. Look at how this cave is breathing. Straight ahead, you see part of our team making their way up this particular hillside. Again, it was pretty steep and it took a lot of effort to climb up that hill. Add to the fact that the higher up you got, the hotter and hotter it became. So this was definitely a challenging day. Now look at that. It looks like it's an opening into the cave, but in fact it's not. There is no way to get out or into the cave from there. This really is just an island about 150 meters below the rim, filled with jungle. The ceiling broke in and the daylight created this beautiful area inside this cave, filled with trees and plants. Incredible. I was very curious to see what it looks like to fly outside of the cave. So carefully, I gained some altitude and soon I was out, looking around. It was deep jungle, no sign of any sort of civilization. Tilting the camera down reveals that big hole in the ground. These are the views only a drone can provide. Look at that. We had to actually hike through this jungle. And here we are, going over and under trees. And then we made it to the other side, which had an amazing view over campsite number 2.
Perfect.
Very far below.
Wow.
So it was time to fly one more time, exploring campsite number 2 and flying a little bit further inside that area of the cave. Stunning. Just stunning. One more wave goodbye, one more turn around to explore the other side, and then it was time to start our way back to campsite number 1. This was a long day. The following day, we made our way out of the cave and we trekked all the way back. Our porters were just incredible, and they had so much energy that once we got back to the native village, they played some volleyball. Maria made it back exhausted but happy, and just a few minutes behind Maria, our dear Josh arrived. And Maria, the good soul she is, was waiting with a cold beer. Look at that smile.
It's open.